Mheshimiwa Daniel Ramoi. Naye alipochukua na tumekuwa naye kwa miaka 24, ametuongoza, akaongoza nchi ya Kenya na wananchi wa Kenya kwa njia ya maana sana.
There are wealthy men, and then there are men whose names outlive their money. Njenga Karume was not just rich, he was connected, protected, and strategically placed at the heart of Kenya's power structure. But long after the deals were signed, the land acquired, and the hotels built, his family would find itself trapped in courtrooms, controversies, tragedies, and unanswered questions. Today, we're not just talking about money, we're talking about his legacy. To understand Njenga Karume's wealth, you must first understand post-independence Kenya. The late 1960s and 1970s were not just about rebuilding a nation, they were about who stood close enough to power. Karume rose sharply during the Jomo Kenyatta era, aligning himself with the elite Mount Kenya political network that revolved around the presidency. At the center of that network was GEMA, the Kikuyu, Embu, and Meru Association. Back then, GEMA was not just a cultural group, it was a political pressure bloc, a land-buying vehicle, a gatekeeper to influence, and for insiders, a fast track to opportunity. Njenga Karume is widely documented as being deeply associated with GEMA circles, even though there is no confirmed record that he ever served as chairman. While Jomo Kenyatta was still the Kenyan president in 1976, Karume joined a number of other politicians, including Kihika Kimani and Paul Ngei, forming the Change the Constitution movement, attempting to change the constitution of Kenya such that then Vice President Daniel Arap Moi would not inherit the presidency upon Kenyatta's death. The movement did not last long. Attorney General Charles Jonjo charged Karume and other leaders of the movement with treason, as they had imagined death of the sitting president, which was forbidden by the Penal Code. President Kenyatta dropped the charges, but at the same time silenced the movement. But here's what mattered more than titles: access. Through this era, Karume positioned himself as a trusted mobilizer, a loyal insider, a businessman who understood the value of political silence. When GEMA was banned in 1980 under Moi, many feared political fallout. Karume did something different. He retreated quietly, shifted focus, and doubled down on business. Some even claim he made his first billion, or rather millions, during the GEMA era.
Njenga Karume was the boss of GEMA.
Yes. Oh, it was a movement, proper.
It was a big movement.
Okay.
Allegedly, members were required to contribute 5,000 shillings each at the time, and there were many people who were in the GEMA association. Though there was never accountability what this money was used for, the name Kenyatta, being part of the GEMA association, instilled fear in people to an extent that nobody dared question where the money raised was being taken, even after GEMA was banned.
To be a member, you had to contribute 5,000. Let's say about 2 million people contribute 25,000 shillings. That's about 10 billion shillings. Where is it? You are told you're going to be a GEMA bank, development house where you get a cheap loans. And sometimes Kenyatta could not even remember whether he was the patron. Who would now dare to take GEMA to court? Yes. Optics of intimidation.
By the time Kenya transitioned into the Moi years, Njenga Karume had already secured vast land holdings, hospitality investments, strategic properties in Nairobi and central Kenya. He later returned to politics, serving as a member of parliament, a cabinet minister later on, but by then the wealth was already entrenched. What the public saw was a disciplined elder statesman. What remained hidden was the complex family structure and the legal minefield quietly forming underneath. Karume became one of Kenya's most recognizable self-made tycoons, building a diversified empire across hospitality. He had Jacaranda hotels, Nairobi and Mombasa, Lake Elementaita Lodge, Village Inn, real estate. He had Sianda House in Nairobi, Unity House, plus numerous residential blocks in Limuru, Kiambu, and Konange Street. His estate was estimated to be about 40 to 50 billion Kenya shillings at the time of his death. Even as a major business figure, he got into legal fights. Example, a case with the Kenya Breweries Limited over distribution agreements, a case he eventually lost.
They appealed the case. The way I wrote that case, it is never been clear to me.
To this day?
To this day. I was not happy.
241 million shillings.
Got lost. I was defeated in the court. So I was not happy.
He operated the Narashi distributors, which distributed the products of the Kenya Breweries Limited, KBL, later Castle Brewing Kenya Limited, a Kenyan subsidiary of South African Breweries, SAB, was formed, with Karume appointed its director. Karume himself sought to distribute the products of both companies, but KBL was afraid of the competition and cancelled the distribution contract with Karume. Karume took the case to court, stating the cancellation of the contract was unfounded. The High Court first ordered KBL to pay 231 million Kenya shillings in damages, but upon appeal, the decision was overturned and Karume was told to pay KBL for the suit. As a result, Karume suffered severe financial losses. He continued to distribute Castle beer for a while until SAB left Kenya, finally ending his transport business. His godown for SAB was located near Kabete Polytechnic, and after he sold or rather paid the damages, this place was later transformed into a church. Karume was also deeply political, being the Member of Parliament for Kiambaa from 1979 to 2007. At times he lost the seat, took a chill pill, then came back, and this varied. At times he was in parliament, at times he was not. He also held a ministerial role, including State Defense Minister and other assistant ministerial positions under Moi and Kibaki's administrations. He was also a close friend and political advisor to Jomo Kenyatta, Moi Kibaki, and later Uhuru Kenyatta. On to his personal life, Njenga Karume was married 3 times. His first wife was Marianne Wariara Waireri. They got married in 1952 and had 10 children. Dr. Wanjiko Kahio, Joseph Karume Njenga, deceased, Teresia Njeri Karume, Lucy Wanjiro Karume, Jane Mukuhi Matu, deceased, Henry Waireri Karume, Kennedy Njoroge, deceased, Albert Kigera Karume, Samuel Wanjema Karume. In 1960, he married Margaret Njeri Njenga. Details on children from this marriage are not widely reported, but she is listed as a spouse in family records. Then his third marriage was to Grace Njoki Njenga, married 21st February 2006. She and Karume had at least one son, Emmanuel Karume Njenga, very young when the father died. Total 10 biologically recorded, plus very young Emmanuel from his third marriage. Before his death, Karume set up the Njenga Karume Trust to hold his empire instead of leaving everything directly via a simple will. That seemed logical at the time, but a trust was relatively new and poorly understood in Kenya's estate context, and beneficiaries later accused trustees of mismanagement.
Giving more information about how unhappy we are, about how the hotel, the farms, and our town assets are being looked after. But there's nothing we could do. But we managed to stop them from borrowing against any of our assets or selling, because they had managed to sell 3 assets.
Njenga Karume died in 2012 at Karen Hospital, Nairobi, after a long illness. While some reports suggested he had been battling cancer, the family kept the details private. His passing marked the start of a new, louder chapter, one full of court battles, inheritance disputes, and family tragedies. Barely had the dust settled when a man named Edwin Thuo, a teacher, appeared in court. His claim, "I am Njenga Karume's son." He sought DNA testing, recognition, and crucially, inclusion in the inheritance. At one point, the petition even attempted to delay Karume's burial.
Kesi hiyo anataka uchunguzi wa chembe-chembe za damu ufanywe au DNA kutoka kwa mwili wa marehemu Njenga Karume, na uchunguzi huo ufanyike katika maabara ya serikali kabla ya mwili wa mwenda zake kuzikwa.
The High Court dismissed the case. Judges noted that Thuo and his mother had previously entered an agreement with Karume. They allegedly received 5 million Kenya shillings. The court ruled the matter could not be resurrected after death. Case closed. Or so it seemed. Here's where things become interesting. While official court records do not list the advocate publicly, multiple YouTube videos, interviews, clips circulating online claim that the paternity claimant was represented by Irungu Kang'ata, now the governor of Murang'a. Important clarification: this claim is based on video evidence and public commentary, not a court ruling. But perception matters, and the mere suggestion that a rising political figure was linked to the case added fuel to an already sensitive inheritance debate.
The late James Njenga Karume was his father. But then again, there were some pending issues in court. Because of those pending issues in court, my client has given us instructions for us to go to court.
As legal dust settled outside, internal wars erupted within. Karume's estate was placed under trust management. Some family members believed the trustees had too much power. Others felt sidelined. Allegations of exclusion quietly circulated. One voice became particularly loud. Jane Mukuhi Karume, the daughter who spoke up
and got the mediators to give us a call. Of course, initially we were a bit apprehensive because we didn't know quite what it entailed. But once we were able to talk to them, and one thing they assured us is that each person will have a voice.
In 2016, Kenya woke up to shocking headlines. James Njenga Kihato, identified in court as Karume's grandson, was arrested. Police alleged he was selling bang and cocaine. The drugs were recovered from a Nairobi apartment. Investigators suspected distribution. He denied the charges. The case went through court, but the damage to the family image was already done. In March 2016, the Karume name once again found itself splashed across headlines, this time in connection with a tragic death. Kenneth Wathugi Karume, identified in media reports as Njenga Karume's grandson, was arrested following an incident in Kiambu County. According to reports by The Star, Kenneth's girlfriend, Mombi Kalungia, also reported in some outlets as Victoria Wairimo fell from the balcony of a fourth-floor apartment and died. What made the case particularly disturbing was the uncertainty surrounding what exactly happened that night.
Kama imevunjika, alikuwa amekatwa huku kwa mkono, alafu kuna nywele ilikuwa mpaka imevurutwa. I think aligonga ukuta na
Police investigations focused on whether the young woman jumped from the balcony or whether she may have fallen during or after a quarrel, and whether another party was involved. At the time of the incident, Kenneth Wathugi Karume was arrested and questioned. The matter was treated as a death under investigation. Authorities emphasized that conclusions would only be drawn after investigations. The case triggered intense public debate, not just because of the tragic loss of life, but because of the name attached to it. Once again, Kenyans asked, would this case be handled like any other, or would influence, status, and legacy complicate the search for truth? Now, this is where the story stops being just about money and becomes deeply painful. In 2019, Njenga Karume's granddaughter, Michelle Wariara Karume, was battling cancer in the US. She wrote a heartbreaking public letter begging for help, saying estate funds were inaccessible, saying calls went unanswered. She even reportedly appealed in court, asking that funds be released for treatment. They never came in time. Michelle died at just 26 years old, leaving behind a young child. For many Kenyans, this moment changed how they saw the Karume empire, because how does a billionaire's granddaughter die begging for money? Jane Mukuhi Karume, Karume's daughter, openly pushed for removal of certain trust chairpersons, greater accountability in estate management. Then tragedy struck. In 2019, Jane died after a long battle with bile duct cancer. But what followed shocked many Kenyans. Instead of Kenya, Jane Mukuhi was buried in Israel. The family explained it was not about lack of money, They wanted to avoid delays, scrutiny, and another public fundraising circus. They were emotionally drained. This decision came after something else painful. Unlike Michelle's case, support came from unexpected places, including Loreto Limuru alumni who reportedly stepped in to help. 2 cancer deaths in 3 years, one family already divided. Njenga Karume mastered political survival, strategic silence, and wealth accumulation. But after his death, the empire faced paternity claims, trustee wars, public fundraisers, and unending scrutiny. So the final question is this: was Karume's power strong enough to protect his family, or did it simply delay the storm? Also, are wills better than trust funds? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you'd like to have more of these kind of stories, subscribe to our channel. Catch you next time.
And when we look at all our debt portfolio, we're thinking about 2.5 billion. So that is about 50% of the value of the state. And that includes what we owe the KRA, net of all remissions that we might get, the banks, the creditors, the contractors we have been using over the last 5 years. So with that, we will have an estate that is debtless, probably not cash rich, but with the ability to generate cash.